I was doubled over in the parking lot outside my apartment, gripping my side as another wave of pain tore through me. When I saw it, a brand new silver BMW with a giant red bow on top, parked in my parents' driveway across the street. My sister Madison squealed with joy, jumping into my mother's arms. My father beamed with pride. 3 weeks ago, they told me they couldn't afford my surgery. Too expensive, they said. Not essential, they claimed. I watched them celebrate, while my body screamed for help that would never come. The pain that morning was unlike anything I had experienced before. For 6 months, I had been dealing with what my doctor called chronic gallbladder issues. The attacks came without warning, sharp stabbing sensations that radiated from my right side up into my shoulder blade. Sometimes they lasted 20 minutes, sometimes they lasted hours. That morning, it had been going on for nearly 3 hours. I'm 28 years old. I work as a graphic designer at a small marketing firm in suburban Chicago. I have a decent apartment that I share with my best friend Jenna. I pay my bills on time. I'm responsible, independent. At least, that's what I always thought I was. Until my gallbladder decided to stage a rebellion against my entire life plan. 4 months ago, after my 3rd emergency room visit in 2 months, my doctor sat me down and explained that I needed surgery. A cholecystectomy, he called it. Removal of the gallbladder. It was becoming inflamed repeatedly, and eventually, it would either rupture or cause serious complications. The surgery was necessary. Not optional. Not cosmetic. Necessary. The cost with my insurance was $12,000 out of pocket. I had managed to save $6,000 over the past 4 months by cutting every possible expense. No dinners out, no new clothes, no entertainment. Just work, home, and saving every penny I could. But $6,000 was still $6,000 short. 3 weeks ago, I swallowed my pride and went to my parents' house for Sunday dinner. They live in a comfortable 4-bedroom house in Naperville, about 15 minutes from my apartment. My father, Frank, is a regional sales manager for a medical supply company. My mother, Margaret, works part-time as a real estate agent. They're not wealthy, but they're comfortable. Solid middle class. 2 cars in the driveway. Retirement accounts. The kind of stability I was working toward building for myself. I waited until after dinner to bring it up. My sister Madison was there too, scrolling through her phone at the table like she always did. Madison is 25, 3 years younger than me. She graduated from college 18 months ago with a degree in communications and has been bouncing between part-time jobs ever since, most recently working at a boutique clothing store while trying to build a social media presence as an influencer. I laid out the medical bills on the dining room table. I showed them the doctor's notes. I explained the payment plan options the hospital offered. I asked if they could possibly loan me $6,000. I promised I would pay them back within a year. I had a plan, a budget, a timeline. My father's response was immediate. That's a lot of money, Autumn. We're not made of money. My mother nodded in agreement. Surgery is so risky anyway. Can't you just manage it with diet and lifestyle changes? I tried to explain that I had already tried every dietary modification possible. I was living on bland foods, avoiding fats, eating small meals throughout the day. Nothing was working. The attacks were getting worse and more frequent. Have you tried natural remedies? My mother asked. I read about this herbal tea that's supposed to help with digestion. Mom, this isn't a digestion problem. My gallbladder is failing. My father stood up from the table. We have our own expenses to think about. Retirement isn't going to fund itself. We can't just hand out thousands of dollars. Madison finally looked up from her phone. Have you tried losing weight? That might help. I stared at her. I'm 5 feet 6 inches tall and weigh 140 pounds. I'm not overweight, but Madison has always been thinner than me, and she's never missed an opportunity to point it out. This isn't about weight, I said quietly. My father was already walking toward the door, signaling the conversation was over. We'll think about it. But I wouldn't count on it. Maybe you can ask your insurance company to cover more. I left their house that night feeling smaller than I had in years. I had asked my family for help, and they had dismissed me like I was asking for money to go on vacation. Over the next 3 weeks, they never called. Never followed up. Never offered to help. I tried calling twice. Both times, My mother said they were still thinking about it, but that things were really tight right now. And then, this morning, I saw the BMW. I had just gotten home from an early morning doctor's appointment. Another checkup. Another round of you really need this surgery soon. I was walking from my car to my apartment when the pain hit. I doubled over in the parking lot, trying to breathe through it. That's when I looked up and saw my parents' driveway across the street. The silver BMW gleamed in the morning sunday. It was gorgeous. Brand new. The kind of car people dream about. And there was Madison, literally jumping up and down, hugging our mother. Our father had his arm around both of them, grinning wider than I had seen in years. My roommate Jenna came outside and found me crouched next to my car. "Are you okay? Is it another attack?" I couldn't speak. I just pointed across the street. Jenna followed my gaze. Her mouth fell open. "Is that what I think it is? They said they didn't have money," I whispered. "Are you kidding me right now?" I watched as neighbors came out to admire the car. Madison was posing for photos next to it. My mother was wiping away tears of joy. My father was shaking hands with a neighbor, clearly proud of the gift they had given their youngest daughter. Something inside me snapped. The pain in my side was excruciating, but the pain in my chest was worse. I stood up, steadied myself, and walked across the street. "Autumn," my mother called out when she saw me. "Isn't it beautiful?" "How much did it cost?" I asked. "That's not really your business," my father said. Madison walked over, running her hand along the hood. "It's my birthday present. I earned this." "Your birthday was 6 months ago," I said. "It's a belated gift," my mother explained. "Madison has been working so hard." I looked at my father. 3 weeks ago, you said you couldn't afford to help me with my surgery." The smile faded from his face. "This is different." "Different how?" "Madison just graduated. This is a celebration of her accomplishments. She graduated 18 months ago. And I asked you to loan me $6,000. How much did this car cost?" "That's none of your concern," my mother said sharply. Madison smirked. "Mom and Dad have been saving for this for 2 years. It's not like they just went out and bought it on a whim." The words hit me like a physical blow. 2 years. They had been saving for Madison's car for 2 years. While I was struggling with medical bills, working extra freelance projects on the side, eating ramen for dinner to save money, my parents had been putting away money for a luxury car for my sister. "So you had the money," I said slowly. "You had savings. You just decided that a car was more important than my health." "It's not about importance," my father said. "It's about priorities. Madison is younger. She needs reliable transportation. She lives 4 blocks from her job. And I need surgery." Neighbors were starting to stare. Madison's face flushed red. "Can you not make this about you for once? This is my moment." "Your moment?" I could barely walk this morning because the pain was so bad. I've been to the emergency room 5 times in the past 4 months. My doctor says if I don't get surgery soon, my gallbladder could rupture. "You're being dramatic," Madison said. My mother stepped between us. "Autumn, you're always so independent. You've always been the strong one who figures things out on your own. Madison needs us more. She's more sensitive." I looked at my mother in disbelief. "So because I don't fall apart, you just leave me to suffer alone?" "We're not leaving you to suffer," my father said. "We're just saying that Madison's needs are different than yours." "Her needs? She needs a BMW?" Madison crossed her arms. "Maybe if you had a better job, you could afford your own medical care. I'm not going to feel guilty because you made poor career choices." The words stung. I had worked hard to build my career. I was good at what I did. But graphic design at a small firm didn't pay 6-figure salaries. "Madison, that's enough," my mother said, but her tone was gentle. Protective. The way she never spoke to me. My father looked at me with something that might have been pity or might have been annoyance. "We paid for Madison's car because we know she'll make something of herself. You've always been the one who needed extra help, but you're also the one who resents getting it. Madison appreciates what we do for her." The implication was clear. They valued Madison more. They believed in Madison more. They were willing to invest in Madison more. I felt Jenna's hand on my arm. She had followed me across the street. "Come on. Let's go." As I turned to leave, my mother called out, We're not trying to hurt you, honey. We just have different priorities right now. I walked back to my apartment in a daze. Jenna helped me inside and made me lie down on the couch. The pain in my side was still intense, but it was nothing compared to the realization settling over me. My parents had chosen my sister over me. They had chosen a car over my health. They had money saved, and they had decided I wasn't worth spending it on. I checked my bank account on my phone. $6,217, still $6,000 short of what I needed. My next doctor's appointment was in 2 days, and I knew what he was going to say, that I couldn't wait much longer, that every day I delayed increased the risk of serious complications. I lay on Jenna's couch, watching through the window as Madison drove her new BMW up and down the street, showing it off to anyone who would look. My parents stood on their porch, waving proudly, and I realized something that made my stomach turn. This wasn't just about the money. This was about something much deeper, something that had probably been true my entire life, but I had never wanted to see it. My parents loved Madison more than they loved me, and there was nothing I could do to change that. 2 days later, I was at work trying to pretend everything was normal. I had a client presentation scheduled for 2 in the afternoon. A big account, the kind that could lead to more work and possibly a raise. I needed to be sharp, professional, on top of my game. Instead, I was in the bathroom at 1:30, vomiting into the toilet while another pain attack ripped through my abdomen. My boss, Patricia, found me there 20 minutes later. I was sitting on the floor, too weak to stand, my shirt soaked with sweat. "Autumn, what's going on?" "I'm okay," I lied. "Just give me a minute." "You're not okay. I'm taking you to urgent care right now." She didn't give me a choice. She helped me to her car and drove me to the urgent care facility 3 blocks from our office. The doctor examined me, pressed on my abdomen, and immediately ordered blood work and an ultrasound. An hour later, the doctor came back looking concerned. "Your gallbladder is severely inflamed. There are signs of infection. You need surgery, and you need it soon. Like, within the next 2 to 3 weeks." "I know," I said quietly. "I'm working on it." "Working on it? This is urgent. If the infection spreads, or if your gallbladder ruptures, you could develop sepsis. That's life-threatening." Patricia was sitting beside me. She looked at me with something between sympathy and frustration. "Why haven't you gotten the surgery already?" I didn't want to explain, didn't want to admit that I couldn't afford it, but the doctor was waiting for an answer. "It's expensive," I finally said. The doctor's face softened. "I understand. But your health has to come first. Please, talk to the hospital about payment plans. Talk to social services. Don't wait on this." Patricia drove me home. We sat in her car outside my apartment for a few minutes before she spoke. "I need to be honest with you. This has been affecting your work for months. You've missed deadlines. You've had to leave meetings. Clients have noticed." My heart sank. "I'm sorry. I'm trying to manage it." "I know you are. And I want to help. But I also have a business to run." She paused. "I'm going to suggest you take unpaid medical leave until you can get this surgery done. Once you're recovered, you can come back." "Patricia, I need my paycheck. That's the only way I can save up for the surgery." "I understand. But I can't have you collapsing during client presentations. Give me 1 week. If you can get the surgery scheduled and have a recovery plan in place, we can work something out. But if not, you'll need to take leave." I got out of the car feeling like I was drowning. I needed to work to afford the surgery, but I needed the surgery to keep working. There was no way out. Inside my apartment, Jenna was making dinner. She took one look at my face and knew something was wrong. "What happened?" I told her everything. The urgent care visit, the doctor's warning, Patricia's ultimatum. "This is insane," Jenna said. "There has to be something we can do." I pulled out my laptop and started looking at my finances again. Maybe if I maxed out my credit card. Maybe if I took out a personal loan. But my credit wasn't great, and the interest rates would be astronomical. I'd be paying it off for years. Meanwhile, Madison was posting photos of her BMW on Instagram. Pictures of her driving to the beach, getting coffee, living her best life. Every post had dozens of comments. "So beautiful. Your parents are amazing. You deserve it." I wanted to scream. But instead, I just closed my laptop and lay on the couch, trying to manage the pain with medication and a heating pad. That night, my phone rang. The caller ID showed my grandfather's name, William, my father's father. William is 82 years old. He lives in Arizona, where he retired after a career as a military officer and then a small business owner. He's sharp, direct, and doesn't suffer nonsense from anyone. I've always been close to him, probably closer than my father ever was. I answered the video call, trying to compose myself. "Autumn, sweetheart," he said, his face filling the screen. "I saw Madison's car photos online. That's quite a vehicle." "Yeah," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "It's beautiful." William studied my face through the screen. Even at 82, he missed nothing. "What's wrong?" "Nothing, Grandpa. I'm fine." Don't lie to an old man who's known you since you were in diapers. "What's going on?" Something about his voice, the concern in his eyes, broke through my defenses. I started crying. And once I started, I couldn't stop. I told him everything. The gallbladder problems. The surgery I needed. How I had asked my parents for help 3 weeks ago. How they said they didn't have money. How they turned around and bought Madison a $50,000 car. William's face grew darker with every sentence. When I finished, he was silent for a long moment. "Your father did what?" "They said they couldn't afford to help me, that they had their own expenses, and then bought Madison a BMW. They said they'd been saving for it for 2 years, that it was different, that Madison needs it more." William's jaw tightened. "I taught my son better than this. What does the surgery cost?" $12,000. I have 6 saved. I just need 6 more, but I can't save it fast enough. And now my boss is saying I might have to take unpaid leave. And Grandpa, I'm so scared because the doctor said if I wait too long, my gallbladder could rupture, and I could get sepsis, and I don't know what to do." The words tumbled out in a rush, and I was crying again. "Listen to me," William said, his voice firm and commanding. "You are not going to die because your parents made a selfish, short-sighted decision. I'm going to make some calls. Don't worry about this anymore. Do you hear me? Grandpa, you've already done so much for me. You helped pay for my college. I can't ask you for more. You're not asking. I'm offering. Family takes care of family. Your father seems to have forgotten that lesson, but I didn't. I'm going to fix this. But, no buts. I'm handling it. I'll call you tomorrow." After we hung up, I felt a mixture of relief and guilt. Relief that someone was finally helping. Guilt that I needed help at all, and worry about what this would do to my already strained relationship with my parents. I didn't have to wait long to find out. 30 minutes later, my phone rang again. My mother. "Did you call your grandfather?" she demanded. "He called me. He saw Madison's car photos. And you just had to tell him everything, didn't you? You had to make us look bad." I told him the truth. "Your grandfather just called your father and tore into him for 20 minutes. Your father is furious, Autumn. You had no right to involve him in this." "I didn't involve him. He asked me what was wrong, and I told him. This is family business. You're trying to turn people against us." "Mom, I'm just trying to not die. Don't be dramatic. You're not going to die." In the background, I could hear my father's voice. "Tell her if she keeps causing drama, she won't be welcome at family events anymore." My mother's voice softened slightly, but the message remained the same. "Autumn, we love you. But you need to understand that this behavior is manipulative. If you keep trying to make us look like bad parents, there will be consequences, including not being invited to Thanksgiving next month." She hung up before I could respond. I stared at my phone in disbelief. I had asked for help with a life-threatening medical condition, and somehow, I was the bad guy. I was the one causing drama. I was the one being manipulative. Jenna came over and sat beside me. "What did they say?" "That I'm not welcome at Thanksgiving if I keep causing problems. They can't be serious." But I knew they were. In my parents' minds, I had committed the unforgivable sin of making them look bad. The fact that they had actually done something wrong didn't matter. What mattered was that I had told someone about it. That night, around 11, another pain attack hit. This one was worse than any before. I couldn't breathe through it. Couldn't move. Couldn't think. Jenna called an ambulance. In the emergency room, the doctor examined me and looked alarmed. "Your gallbladder is severely inflamed," We need to admit you for observation. They kept me overnight on IV antibiotics and pain medication. Every hour, a nurse came in to check my vitals and press on my abdomen, checking for signs that the gallbladder was rupturing. I lay in that hospital bed, alone, except for Jenna, who stayed despite having to work in the morning, and thought about Madison's BMW. About my parents' faces when they gave it to her. About how happy they looked. And I thought about how I might actually die because they loved a car more than they loved me. The hospital bill for that one night was $3,200. Money I didn't have. Money that pushed the surgery even further out of reach. When they discharged me the next morning, the doctor was stern. You need surgery within the week. 2 weeks maximum. This is not optional anymore. Do you understand? I understood. I just didn't know how to make it happen. The next morning, William called me while I was still groggy from pain medication. It's done, he said. I've arranged payment with the hospital. Your surgery is scheduled for next Tuesday. Everything is taken care of. I started crying again, but this time from relief. Grandpa, I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to thank me. Just get healthy. That's all I want. He had called the hospital directly. Set up payment for the entire surgery and all my outstanding medical bills. Over $40,000 in total. He didn't hesitate. Didn't make me beg. Just handled it. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. I called Patricia and told her the surgery was scheduled. She was relieved. Take the time you need to recover. Your job will be here when you're ready. I told Jenna, and she hugged me so tight I thought my ribs would crack. Thank God. I was so worried about you. For 2 whole days, I felt hopeful. The surgery was scheduled. I could stop worrying. I could start healing. And then Madison showed up at my apartment. She didn't knock. She used the key Jenna had given her months ago for emergencies and walked right in while I was lying on the couch. We need to talk, she said. I sat up slowly. About what? About the mess you've created. What mess? Madison crossed her arms. Grandpa William called Mom and Dad. Gave them this huge lecture about favoritism and how they failed you. Dad and Grandpa got into this massive fight. They were screaming at each other. Mom cried for 3 hours. Do you have any idea what you've done? I didn't do anything. I told Grandpa the truth. You manipulated him. You played the victim and got him to feel sorry for you. Now he's threatening to cut Dad out of his will. I blinked. What? You heard me. Grandpa told Dad he was ashamed of him. Said he didn't deserve to inherit anything. Because of you. Madison, I didn't ask him to do that. But you knew he would. You always were his favorite. You got college money from him. You get all his attention. And now you've turned him against our parents. I nearly died, Madison. I had to go to the emergency room again last night. The doctor said my gallbladder could rupture at any time. She rolled her eyes. You're so dramatic. If it was really that serious, you'd be in the hospital right now. I was in the hospital. They discharged me this morning. That gave her pause. But only for a moment. Well, regardless, you've made everything about you. As usual, how is needing surgery making it about me? Mom's birthday is in 3 weeks. We had a whole family dinner planned. Grandpa was going to fly in for it. He never visits. But now everything is ruined because of your drama. My drama? I asked for help with a medical emergency. Madison's voice rose. And you got it! Grandpa paid for everything. So you can stop playing the victim now. But if you show up to Mom's birthday dinner, you're going to ruin it. She's already devastated by what Grandpa said to Dad. The least you could do is give them space. Are you seriously telling me not to come to my own mother's birthday? I'm saying if you really cared about Mom, you'd let her be happy for one day. But you won't, because you always have to be the center of attention. She left before I could respond. I sat there, stunned. Somehow, in Madison's mind, I was the villain. I was the one causing problems. Not the parents who bought her a luxury car while refusing to help with my surgery. Not her, for accepting that car, knowing I was suffering. Me, for having the audacity to need medical help. The next day, Patricia called with a problem. A major client project that I had been the lead designer on was falling apart. The temporary designer they hired to replace me wasn't working out, and the client was threatening to leave the firm. I know your surgery is Tuesday, Patricia said, but is there any way you could finish this one project first? It's 4 days of work. I'll pay you a $2,000 bonus on top of your regular rate. I needed the money. Even with William covering the surgery, I still had credit card debt and other bills. $2,000 would help. I'll do it, I said. I worked 18-hour days for the next 4 days. My body was screaming at me the entire time. The pain attacks came more frequently. I was popping pain medication like candy, barely sleeping, barely eating. But I finished the project. By Saturday night, I was a wreck. The surgery was scheduled for Tuesday morning at 7. I had 2 days to rest and prepare. Except on Monday morning, the day before my surgery, the hospital called. Miss Autumn, this is the financial coordinator at the hospital. We have a problem with your surgery payment. My blood ran cold. What kind of problem? The payment your grandfather arranged hasn't cleared. The bank flagged it as a potentially fraudulent transaction due to the large amount and your grandfather's age. But he authorized it. Can't he just confirm it's not fraud? He's working with his bank now, but these things can take 3 to 5 business days to resolve. Unfortunately, we can't proceed with the surgery until the payment is confirmed, but my surgery is tomorrow morning. I understand and I'm very sorry, but our policy is clear. Once the payment clears, we can reschedule. I don't have 3 to 5 days. My doctor said this is urgent. I understand your concern. Is there any other way you can secure payment? I hung up and immediately called William. He was furious. They think I'm some confused old man being scammed, he said. I've been on the phone with my bank for an hour. They're working on it, but there's paperwork and verification processes. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. It's not your fault, Grandpa. I'm going to get this sorted out. I promise. But promises didn't change the fact that my surgery was canceled. I called my doctor. He was alarmed. Autumn, you cannot wait several more days. Your last blood work showed signs of infection. We need to operate soon. I don't have the money. Do you have any family who could help? Even temporarily? I looked across the street at my parents' house. At Madison's BMW parked in the driveway, gleaming in the afternoon Sunday. I had one option, and I hated it. Jenna begged me not to go. They're just going to hurt you again. I don't have a choice. I walked across the street and knocked on the door. My father answered. What do you want? I need to ask you something. He didn't invite me in. We stood on the porch while I explained the situation. The bank hold, the canceled surgery, the urgent need. I'm asking you to loan me the $12,000 just until Grandpa's payment clears. It'll be 4 or 5 days at most. I'll pay you back immediately. My father called for my mother and Madison. They came to the door. Autumn wants us to loan her money for her surgery, he said. Madison actually smirked. The answer is no, my father said. Dad, please. This is my health. The doctor said I could develop sepsis. I could die. You're being dramatic, Madison said. You're not going to die. My mother shook her head. You've caused enough problems, Autumn. You involved your grandfather. You've turned him against us. We're not rewarding that behavior. This isn't about behavior. This is about my life. If William wants to pay, he can figure out his bank problems, my father said. That's not our issue. I'm your daughter, and you've made your choice, my mother said. You chose to go behind our backs and manipulate your grandfather. Now you deal with the consequences. I was crying now, standing on their porch, begging. Please, I'm asking you for help. I'm scared. My father's face was stone. You should have thought about that before you tried to make us look like bad parents. You are bad parents. The words burst out of me. You bought Madison a $50,000 car and won't loan me $12,000 to save my life. Madison stepped forward. Get off our property. Madison, please. You've always been jealous of me. Always. And now you're trying to ruin my relationship with Mom and Dad. I'm done with you. My mother put her arm around Madison. I think you should leave, Autumn. I stood there, tears streaming down my face, looking at my family. My father's cold expression. My mother's protective stance around Madison. Madison's satisfied smirk. They were choosing each other, and leaving me to die. I turned and walked away. Got into my car. Started driving. And that's when the worst pain attack I'd ever experienced hit me. I barely managed to pull over to the side of the highway before doubling over. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. The pain was so intense I thought I was dying. I called 911 myself, told them my location, and then I passed out. I woke up in an ambulance. A paramedic was checking my vitals. "You're okay. We've got you. You're going to the hospital." At the emergency room, the doctor's face was grim. "Your gallbladder is failing. You're developing an infection. We need to operate within 48 hours, or you're at serious risk for sepsis." They admitted me. Started me on IV antibiotics and fluids. The pain was manageable with medication. But the fear wasn't. "What if the payment doesn't clear in time?" I asked. The ER doctor was sympathetic but realistic. "We can do emergency surgery if your condition becomes immediately life-threatening. But you'll be responsible for the full cost without pre-arranged payment." I lay in that hospital bed, watching the IV drip medication into my arm, and felt utterly defeated. I had done everything right. Worked hard. Saved money. Asked for help. And still, here I was, facing the very real possibility that I might die because my parents valued a car more than my life. Jenna came and stayed with me. Held my hand while I cried. Brought me things from home. Told me it would be okay even though we both knew it might not be. And across the street from my apartment, Madison's BMW sat in my parents' driveway, perfect and gleaming, while I fought for my life in a hospital bed. I had been in the hospital for 2 days. The antibiotics were keeping the infection from getting worse, but the doctors were clear. I needed surgery soon. Every hour that passed increased the risk. William was still fighting with his bank, trying to get the payment cleared. The bureaucracy was maddening. Jenna had barely left my side. She brought me books, charged my phone, held my hand during the worst moments. She was the family I needed when my actual family had abandoned me. On the second day, there was a knock on my hospital room door. I expected another nurse, but instead, a man in his 50s walked in. It took me a moment to recognize him. Uncle Tom? Tom was my father's younger brother. He lived 2 hours away and worked as an accountant. I saw him maybe once a year at family gatherings. We were friendly but not close. He looked nervous, uncomfortable. "Hi, Autumn. I heard you were here." "How did you hear?" "Your dad mentioned it to me." Well, more like complained about it. He shifted his weight. "Can I sit down?" "Sure." He sat in the chair beside my bed, looking like he was struggling with something. Finally, he spoke. "There's something you need to know." "About Madison's car." I waited. "It wasn't just a birthday gift. Your parents made a deal with Madison." My confusion must have shown on my face. Tom explained that after Madison graduated from college, Frank and Margaret expected her to move back home and work at Margaret's real estate office. They had it all planned out. But Madison refused. She wanted to pursue being a social media influencer, posting lifestyle content, trying to get brand sponsorships. Frank and Margaret were furious. Madison was living in a cheap apartment, working part-time at a boutique, barely making rent. They wanted her to have a real job and be close to home. Madison threatened to cut off contact completely, Tom said. She told them she'd stop coming to family dinners, stop answering their calls. She posted some stuff on social media about family pressure and toxic expectations. Your parents panicked, so they bought her a car. They made a deal. Madison agreed to come home for Sunday dinners, promote your mom's real estate business on her social media, and maintain regular contact. In exchange, they'd buy her the BMW she'd been wanting. I stared at him. They bribed her? Essentially, yes. They were terrified of losing their golden child. The pieces were starting to fit together, but it got worse. Tom pulled out his phone. When you asked them for help with your surgery, they had just made the final payment on the BMW. They'd emptied their special savings account, so they actually didn't have the money? No, they had it. But they'd already committed it to Madison. And your dad told your mom, "We can't help both girls. We already committed to Madison." "How do you know that?" "I was there. I visited 2 weeks ago to drop off some tax documents for your dad." I overheard them talking in the kitchen. Tom's hands were shaking as he scrolled through his phone. Your mom said, "Autumn is stronger. She'll figure it out on her own. Madison needs us more." The words hit me like a punch. My own mother had said that. Had written me off because I was stronger. I've been struggling with whether to tell you, Tom admitted. Your dad told me to stay out of it. Threatened to cut me off from the family if I interfered. But I couldn't live with myself if I didn't tell you the truth. He handed me his phone. Text messages between my father and mother. I scrolled through them, my hands shaking. Frank, Autumn has always been independent. Madison needs us more, Margaret. We can't let Madison drift away. She's sensitive. Autumn will understand eventually. Frank, if Autumn keeps pushing, we'll just tell her we don't have the money. She'll believe us. There it was, in writing. They had planned to lie to me, had decided that Madison's happiness was more important than my health. There's more, Tom said quietly. I looked up at him. Madison knew about your surgery before they bought her the car. She knew you'd ask them for help. My breath caught. Tom showed me another text, this one from Madison to Margaret. If you give Autumn money, I'm done. I won't come to your dinners. I won't post about your business. Choose. And another from Madison. Autumn will guilt trip Grandpa into helping her. She always finds a way. You should go ahead with my car. She knew. Madison knew I was in pain, knew I needed surgery, and she deliberately pushed our parents to buy her the car instead of helping me. She manipulated them, I whispered. Yes, and they let her. I felt sick. This wasn't just favoritism. This wasn't just poor judgment. This was a calculated choice. A conspiracy of neglect. They had all decided, together, that a luxury car was worth more than my life. Tom stood up. I have $5,000 I can loan you right now. It's not enough for the full surgery, but it's something. Tom, you don't have to. Yes, I do, because this is wrong. Everything about this is wrong. He pulled out his phone. I'm calling your grandfather. He needs to hear this from me. He put the phone on speaker. William answered on the second ring. Tom, is everything okay? No, it's not. I'm with Autumn at the hospital. I need to tell you what actually happened with Madison's car, and why Frank really didn't help Autumn. Tom laid out everything. The deal with Madison. The texts. The manipulation. How Madison threatened to cut off contact unless they bought her the car. How they chose to spend their savings on Madison rather than help me. By the end, William's voice was ice cold with rage. That explains why Frank has been dodging my calls. I thought you should know the truth, Tom said. Thank you for being the only decent person in that house. William's voice softened. Autumn, honey, are you there? I'm here, Grandpa. I'm getting on a plane tonight. This ends now. I don't care how long the bank takes. I'm coming there, and we're going to fix this together. Just as he said that, a sharp pain shot through my abdomen. I gasped and doubled over. Jenna jumped up. Nurse! We need a nurse! 2 nurses rushed in. One checked my vitals, while the other examined my abdomen. The doctor came in moments later. Her vitals are dropping. Blood pressure is falling. The doctor pressed on my side and I screamed. The infection is spreading. We need to operate now. What about payment? One of the nurses asked. This is an emergency. We'll figure out payment later. Prep her for surgery. Everything happened fast after that. Nurses were moving around me, unhooking monitors, preparing to move me. Jenna was crying, holding my hand. Tom was on the phone with William, giving him updates. The last thing I remember before they wheeled me toward the operating room was looking at Tom and saying, make sure everyone knows the truth. Henotted. He promise. They put a mask over my face and told me to count backward from 10. I made it to 7 before everything went black. The surgery took 3 hours. When I woke up in recovery, Jenna was there, tears streaming down her face. You're okay, she said. You're going to be okay. My throat was dry. My side ached. But I was alive. Over the next few hours, Tom and Jenna filled me in on what happened while I was in surgery. William had called every 30 minutes for updates. He was on a plane, scheduled to land the next morning. Madison had posted on Instagram a photo of her BMW at sunset. Caption: living my best life. Grateful for everything. Jenna had shown the post to Tom. He looked disgusted. She has no idea you were in emergency surgery. Or worse, she knows and doesn't care. The surgery had been successful, but I'd developed a post-operative infection. The doctors wanted to keep me for extended observation. Another week of IV antibiotics at minimum. The bills were going to be astronomical. Over $40,000 when everything was added up. I lay in that hospital bed, thinking about Madison's text messages, about how she'd threatened my parents, about how they'd chosen her ultimatum over my life. I had always known Madison was the favorite, but I hadn't realized how far they would go to keep her happy. I hadn't realized that my life was the price they were willing to pay. The infection kept me in the hospital for 7 more days. 7 days of IV antibiotics, pain management, and medical staff checking on me every few hours. 7 days of watching the bills pile up, knowing I'd be paying for this for years. William arrived on day 3. He walked into my hospital room looking older than I remembered, but with steel in his eyes. "Hi, Grandpa," I said weakly. He sat beside my bed and took my hand. "I'm so sorry I couldn't prevent this. You tried. You did more than anyone else. I'm going to make this right. Not just financially. All of it." Over the next few days, William worked behind the scenes. His bank finally cleared the payment, covering all my medical expenses. Over $43,000 total. But William wanted more than just to pay bills. He wanted accountability. He showed me a folder he'd been compiling. Financial records, text messages from Tom's phone, receipts from the BMW dealership showing the exact purchase price, $52,000, documentation of my medical bills, my doctor's warnings, the timeline of everything. "I want you to understand exactly what they chose over your health," he said. On day 5, William made a phone call to my father. "We need to have a family meeting. Tonight. At the hospital." I could hear my father's voice through the phone, protesting. "You have 2 choices," William said, his voice calm but deadly. "Come tonight, or I will never speak to you again. And I'll make sure the entire extended family knows exactly why." There was silence on the other end, then agreement. That evening, my father, mother, and Madison arrived at the hospital. They looked uncomfortable, out of place. A nurse directed them to a conference room where William, Tom, Jenna, and I were waiting. I was in a wheelchair, still hooked to an IV. Madison looked annoyed. "This is so dramatic. She's fine. Sit down," William commanded. Saturday. William laid out everything systematically. He showed them the timeline. My initial request for help. Their refusal. The purchase of the BMW. The text messages Tom had provided. Madison's manipulation. My near death in emergency surgery. My father tried to defend himself. We had different priorities. Madison is younger and needs more support. Madison is 25 years old and needed a luxury car. William's voice was sharp. While Autumn nearly died, my mother was crying. We didn't think it would get this serious. William slid the hospital records across the table. The doctors warned her multiple times. She ended up in the ER 5 times before her emergency surgery. "You knew it was serious." Madison crossed her arms. "I didn't force them to buy me anything." "No," William said. "You just threatened to cut them off if they didn't." He showed them the text messages. Madison's face went pale. "You told them to choose between helping your sister with life-saving surgery or buying you a car. And you made sure they chose the car." "That's not what happened," Madison protested. "That's exactly what happened," Tom said. "I saw the texts myself." The room fell silent. My parents couldn't deny it. Madison couldn't explain it away. Then Madison exploded. "Fine. You want to know the real reason? Autumn has always been Grandpa's favorite. She got college money from him. She gets all his attention. For once, I wanted to be the priority with Mom and Dad. I deserved that car. Autumn already had her turn with Grandpa's money. The truth was finally out. Madison resented me for being close to William. The BMW wasn't just about having a nice car. It was about competing for parental love. About winning. "I told them not to help you," Madison continued. "I said you'd manipulate Grandpa into paying anyway. And I was right." My mother broke down completely. "Madison said she'd cut us off if we helped you, Autumn. She said she wouldn't come to dinners anymore. We were afraid of losing her." My father added, "You're strong. You've always been independent. Madison is more fragile. She needs us more." There it was, the full confession. They had sacrificed my well-being to keep Madison happy. They had literally chosen one daughter's happiness over the other daughter's life. I found my voice, weak as it was. You let me almost die because you were afraid Madison would stop coming to Sunday dinner? My mother couldn't look at me. I was terrified, I continued. I thought I was going to die. And Madison was posting photos of her BMW while I was in surgery. Madison's face flushed red, but she didn't apologize. William stood up. Here's what's going to happen. I've paid $43,000 for Autumn's medical care. Frank, you're going to pay me back. Every penny. My father's head snapped up. What? You have two choices. Either you set up a payment plan and pay me back, or I sell the lake house. The lake house. The family vacation property that William owned, worth about $300,000. In his will, it was supposed to go to my father. Dad, you can't be serious, my father said. I'm completely serious. You chose to spend $52,000 on a car instead of $12,000 on your daughter's surgery. You can pay me back the money I spent saving her life, or you can lose your inheritance. That's not fair. Fair? William's voice rose. You want to talk about fair? Your daughter was dying, and you told her no so you could buy a car. Don't talk to me about fair. Madison jumped up. This is insane. Over a stupid surgery? William turned to her. Your car cost $52,000. Your sister's life-saving surgery cost $12,000. You do the math. He sat back down and pulled out a document. I'm changing my will. Frank, you get nothing. Tom gets the lake house. Autumn gets my investment accounts. My mother gasped. You can't cut out your own son! He cut out his own daughter first. I'm just following his example. My father's face went red. This is blackmail. No, this is consequences. Madison grabbed her purse. I'm done with this. You're all crazy. We're crazy? Tom said. You manipulated your parents into choosing a car over your sister's life? And we're crazy? Madison stormed toward the door. My parents followed. You've destroyed this family, Madison yelled. No, William called after them. Your selfishness destroyed it. They left. The door slammed behind them. The room was silent for a moment. Then I started crying. Not from pain this time, but from the weight of everything. My family had chosen against me. And now they were gone. William held my hand. You didn't deserve any of this. I just wanted them to love me enough to help me, I whispered. They should have. And their failure to do so isn't a reflection on you. It's a reflection on them. Tom put his hand on my shoulder. I'm here for you. Whatever you need. Jenna was crying too. You have us. We're your family now. But the pain of rejection was still there, sharp and cutting. That's when my phone buzzed. A text notification. Then another. Then another. I looked at the screen. Group text messages from the extended family. Madison had sent out a mass message to all my aunts, uncles, and cousins. Autumn manipulated Grandpa William and destroyed our family. She's lying about everything. She's jealous and vindictive. Please don't believe her stories. The messages started coming in. Some family members asking what was going on. Others immediately taking Madison's side. Aunt Linda, Margaret's sister. How could you do this to your mother? Cousin Beth. Madison seems really hurt. What really happened? Another cousin. This sounds like there are two sides to the story. My professional reputation was about to be dragged through the mud. My family was fracturing. And Madison was controlling the narrative. I looked at William. She's telling everyone I'm lying. He took my phone and read the messages. His jaw tightened. Let her try. The truth has a way of coming out. But in that moment, lying in a hospital bed, watching my extended family turn against me based on Madison's lies, I felt utterly defeated. I had survived the surgery. But the real battle was just beginning. I was released from the hospital after 8 days total. The doctors cleared me to recover at home with strict instructions to rest, take my antibiotics, and follow up in 2 weeks. My body was healing, but everything else was falling apart. Madison had launched a full campaign on social media, Instagram posts with captions about family betrayal and manipulation. She posted old photos of us as kids, writing things like I used to look up to my sister, but she's shown her true colors. On Facebook, she wrote a long post about how I had driven a wedge between our grandparents and parents, and how I was using my medical situation to get attention and money. She didn't mention the BMW. She didn't mention refusing to let our parents help me. She just painted herself as the victim of a jealous, manipulative sister. The posts were getting hundreds of interactions, friends of the family, distant relatives, people from our hometown, all seeing Madison's version of events. My phone was exploding. Text messages from relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. Aunt Linda, your mother is devastated. How could you involve William in this? A cousin I barely knew. Madison is really hurt. You should apologize. Even some of my mother's real estate colleagues started leaving negative reviews on my graphic design portfolio website. 1-star reviews saying I was unprofessional and dramatic. My professional reputation was being attacked by people who didn't even know me. My boss Patricia called. Autumn, I'm getting questions from clients about some family drama. What's going on? I tried to explain, but it sounded insane. How do you sum up everything that had happened? I just need you to know, Patricia said carefully, that if this affects your work or our reputation, we'll need to address it. I was being punished professionally for being sick, for asking my family for help, for surviving. Jenna tried to defend me online. She commented on Madison's posts, explaining what really happened. She got attacked immediately. You're not family. Stay out of it. You're just taking her side because you're her roommate. This is private family business. Within an hour, Jenna was being harassed by Madison's followers. She deleted her comments and came to me with tears in her eyes. I'm so sorry. I tried to help. It's not your fault, I said. She's controlling the narrative. William was furious. This is defamation. She's lying publicly. He hired a lawyer who sent cease and desist letters to Madison, demanding she stop the harassment and remove the false posts. The lawyer also sent legal notices to my parents, demanding they stop enabling Madison's campaign. Madison responded by posting about being silenced by money and lawyers, and how the rich grandfather is trying to intimidate me into being quiet about my sister's manipulation. She was good at this. Every move we made, she twisted into proof that she was the victim. The stress was affecting my physical recovery. I couldn't sleep, could barely eat. My incision wasn't healing properly because my body was under so much stress. Tom called with worse news. More extended family members were believing Madison's story. The Thanksgiving dinner, just 1 week away, was becoming a political minefield. Aunt Linda, who was hosting, called me directly. Maybe it's best if you don't come this year. Your presence might cause tension. I was being excluded from family holidays, for being sick, for asking for help, for surviving. I spent 3 days barely leaving my bed. Jenna was worried about me. You need to eat something. You need to heal. But how could I heal when everything was falling apart? Then my phone rang. It was my cousin Sarah. She was 35, had always been kind to me growing up. We weren't super close, but we'd always gotten along. Autumn, I need to show you something. Can I come over? She arrived an hour later with her laptop. I did some investigating, because Madison's story didn't add up. She opened her laptop and showed me screenshots. Madison has a private Instagram account, a Finsta, for close friends only. My heart started pounding. I'm friends with someone who follows it. They sent me these. The first screenshot was from 3 months ago. A photo of a BMW. Caption: Parents are buying me this beauty! Had to promise to do some stuff for mom's business and show up to dinners, but whatever. So worth it. The second screenshot was from 2 months ago. Autumn is begging the parents for surgery money, as if they'd choose her over my car. The third: if Autumn tells Grandpa William about this, I'll just tell everyone she's lying and manipulative. Family will believe me over her. They always do. There were more. Over 20 posts documenting everything. Madison bragging to her friends about the deal with our parents. Madison mocking my medical condition. Madison planning exactly how she'd turn the family against me if I spoke up. It was all there. Time-stamped, undeniable proof that she had lied about everything. She knew, I whispered. She planned all of this. Sarah nodded. I took screenshots of everything before she realizes anyone saw them. This proves she's been lying publicly. I stared at the evidence. Madison hadn't just reacted defensively when confronted. She had planned this from the beginning. She had orchestrated my near death, secured her car, and prepared a backup plan to destroy my reputation if I fought back. What are you going to do with this? Sarah asked. That was the question. I had nuclear evidence that proved Madison was lying, but using it would destroy what little remained of my family. I called an emergency meeting. William, Tom, Jenna, and Sarah gathered at my apartment. I was still recovering. Still weak. But this couldn't wait. We laid out all the evidence. The Finsta screenshots, the text messages, the medical records, the financial documents showing the BMW purchase. Everything. We need to release this publicly, William said. Madison is destroying your reputation with lies. This is the truth. Tom agreed. She's convinced half the family you're the villain. They need to see the evidence, but I hesitated. If we do this, the family is finished. There's no coming back from this. The family is already finished, William said gently. Your parents chose Madison over you. Madison threatened them into it. There's nothing left to preserve, Jenna added. And she's hurting you professionally. Those fake reviews could damage your career, Sarah nodded. I wouldn't have brought you this evidence if I didn't think you should use it. She's been lying to everyone, including me. People deserve to know the truth. I thought about lying in that hospital bed, thinking I might die. About watching Madison's BMW posts while I was in surgery. About my mother saying Madison needed them more. About my father refusing to help even when I begged. Tom was right. There was no family to preserve. There was only the truth left to tell. Okay, I said. Let's do it. We spent 3 days preparing the post. I wrote out everything that had happened in chronological order. Tom helped organize the evidence documents. William's lawyer reviewed everything to make sure it was legally sound. Sarah compiled all the Finsta screenshots. Jenna created a clean timeline with dates and facts. We were going to post it the day before Thanksgiving. The night before we planned to release it, I had doubts. I called William. What if this makes me just as bad as them? You're telling the truth, Autumn. They lied. That's the difference. But it's going to hurt people. They hurt you first, and they're still hurting you. You have a right to defend yourself. Tom called next. Madison is destroying your reputation with lies. You're defending yourself with facts. There's nothing wrong with that. Jenna sat with me. You almost died. You deserve justice. I thought about the pain, the fear, the betrayal, the lies Madison was spreading, the family who had abandoned me. Something inside me hardened. I was done being the victim. I was done protecting people who had hurt me. I was done staying silent. It was time to fight back. Thanksgiving morning, I posted everything. A detailed essay explaining exactly what happened, hospital records showing the emergency surgery, financial documents proving the BMW purchase and the cost difference between the car and my surgery, the text messages between my parents showing they chose Madison over me. Madison's Finsta screenshots proving she'd planned everything and lied publicly. I included a timeline, photos of relevant documents, everything organized and clear. The title, Why I Almost Died, While My Sister Got a BMW. The whole truth. I tagged everyone involved, my parents, Madison, extended family members who had attacked me. I posted it on Facebook, Instagram, and sent it to the family group chat. Within 30 minutes, it started spreading. Shares, comments, messages flooding in. Extended family members who had believed Madison were reading the evidence, seeing the Finsta posts, realizing they'd been lied to. Aunt Linda called, crying. I had no idea. I'm so sorry. Of course you're welcome at Thanksgiving. I'm so sorry. Cousins were messaging apologies. We should have asked for your side. I can't believe Madison lied like that. I'm so sorry we doubted you. Margaret's real estate colleagues saw the post and understood the context. The fake negative reviews on my portfolio disappeared, and Madison's social media exploded. Her Instagram was flooded with angry comments. Her Facebook was bombarded with people calling her out. Her carefully curated influencer image was destroyed. Within 2 hours, she deleted all her social media accounts, but the screenshots were everywhere. People had saved them, shared them. Madison couldn't escape what she'd done. My parents' phones were ringing off the hook. Extended family demanding answers. Friends asking questions. I lay in bed, watching the responses come in, feeling both vindicated and devastated. I had told the truth. But the cost was that my family would never be the same. William called. "You did the right thing," Tom texted. "Standing by you. Always." Jenna hugged me. "I'm proud of you." The truth was out. The battle was over. But the war with my family had just reached its final irreversible conclusion. The aftermath of the post was immediate and overwhelming. Within hours, my phone was flooded with messages. But this time, they weren't accusations. They were apologies. Aunt Linda called within the first hour, crying. "Autumn, I'm so sorry. I had no idea what really happened. I just heard Madison's side and I believed her. Can you ever forgive me?" "I understand," I said quietly. "She's very convincing. You're absolutely welcome at Thanksgiving tomorrow. In fact, I'd be honored if you came. And I'm officially uninviting your parents and Madison." I was stunned. "Aunt Linda, you don't have to do that." "Yes, I do. What they did was unforgivable. They can have Thanksgiving at home by themselves." Other family members reached out throughout the day. Cousins apologizing for doubting me. My father's siblings expressing shock and disgust at what Frank had done. Even people from my mother's side of the family were calling to apologize and offer support. One of my mother's real estate colleagues called. "I left a negative review on your portfolio. I'm so sorry. I removed it and left a 5-star review instead. What your family did to you was horrible." Madison's carefully built influencer reputation crumbled. The brands she'd been working with dropped her. Her follower count plummeted as people unfollowed in droves. Local news picked up the story anonymously, but enough details were public that people in our community knew who it was about. By evening, Madison had deleted every social media account. Her digital presence, which she'd spent years building, was gone. I should have felt triumphant. But mostly, I just felt sad. Sad that it had come to this. Sad that my family had chosen this path. Sad that telling the truth had required such a nuclear option. Thanksgiving Day arrived. William picked me up in his rental car. Tom and his wife came too, bringing their 2 kids. Jenna came with me, treated like the family member she had proven herself to be. When we arrived at Aunt Linda's house, I was nervous. Would people actually be welcoming? Or would it be awkward and tense? The moment I walked in, Aunt Linda hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. "Thank you for coming. Thank you for trusting us with the truth." Other relatives came up one by one. My father's brother hugged me and said, "I'm ashamed of what Frank did. You deserved so much better." Cousins apologized for believing Madison's lies. Even distant relatives I barely knew expressed support. When we sat down for dinner, Aunt Linda stood to make a toast. "I want to say something before we eat. This year, we're grateful for family members who show up when it matters, who tell the truth even when it's hard, who support each other through the worst moments." She looked directly at me. "Autumn, we failed you when you needed us most. We believed lies instead of asking questions. We're sorry. And we're grateful you're here." Everyone raised their glasses. I started crying, overwhelmed by the acceptance and support. The dinner was emotional but healing. People asked about my recovery. I was honest about the physical healing and the emotional trauma. My Uncle Tom sat beside me, protective and supportive. William was on my other side, proud and relieved. We shared stories, laughed, and slowly rebuilt connections that had been damaged by Madison's lies. Meanwhile, across town, my parents and Madison were having Thanksgiving alone. According to Tom, who talked to our father briefly, the 3 of them ate in near silence. Madison refused to admit she'd done anything wrong. My mother cried through the entire meal. My father was angry but defeated, knowing he'd lost the respect of his family. Madison's BMW sat in the driveway, a constant reminder of the choice they'd made, the symbol of everything they'd destroyed for material possession. In the weeks that followed, William followed through on his promises. He officially changed his will. Tom would inherit the lake house. I would receive his investment accounts. My father's inheritance was reduced to a minimal amount. When my father found out, he tried to reconcile with William. He called, sent emails, even showed up at the hotel where William was staying. William refused to see him. "You made your choice. Now live with it." My mother reached out to me 6 weeks after Thanksgiving. She asked if we could meet for coffee. I wasn't sure if I was ready, but William encouraged me to at least hear her out. We met at a neutral coffee shop on a gray January afternoon. My mother looked like she'd aged 10 years in 2 months. Her eyes were puffy from crying. She'd lost weight. "I know I can't undo what I did," she started, her voice shaking. "But I need you to know I'm sorry. I made the worst decision of my life. You chose a car over my life, Mom." She started crying. Madison had threatened to cut us off completely. She said she'd never speak to us again if we didn't buy her the car. She was so angry, so manipulative. I was terrified of losing her. "So you chose to lose me instead? I thought you were stronger. You've always been so independent, so capable. Madison has always been more fragile, more needy. I thought you'd be okay without us. I almost died. I know." She was sobbing now. "I know, and I have to live with that for the rest of my life. Every time I see that car in our driveway, I feel sick. It's a reminder of what we sacrificed for it." I wanted to forgive her. Part of me desperately wanted to fix our relationship, but the hurt was too deep. "I needed my mother," I said, my own tears starting. "I was scared and in pain, and I needed you. And you weren't there. You actively chose not to be there. I know. I don't know if I can forgive that." "I understand." She wiped her eyes. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. And that I love you. Even though I failed to show it when it mattered most." We talked for another hour. She explained how Madison had manipulated them for years, how they'd enabled her behavior because they were afraid of conflict, how my father was too proud to admit he'd been wrong. When we parted ways, I told her the truth. "I'm not ready to have you in my life yet. Maybe someday. But I need time to heal first." She nodded, accepting the boundary I'd set. Madison moved out of state 2 months after everything exploded. She couldn't face the community anymore. The BMW, which she'd fought so hard to get, ended up being repossessed because she couldn't afford the payments without her influencer income. She had to get a regular office job in a city where no one knew her story. We haven't spoken since the hospital confrontation. I don't know if we ever will again. Some betrayals are too deep to forgive. My father never apologized. His pride wouldn't allow it. He and William remain estranged. He lost his relationship with me, his relationship with his father, and the respect of most of his extended family. All for a car that's now gone. But my life got better. 3 months after my surgery, I was fully recovered physically. Back at work full-time, Patricia gave me a promotion and a raise, acknowledging how I'd handled everything professionally despite the personal chaos. My design portfolio actually became stronger. The attention from the situation, oddly enough, brought me professional opportunities. Several companies reached out, impressed by how I'd documented everything so clearly. I received job offers from bigger firms. I started spending holidays with William, Tom's family, and Jenna. We created new traditions, ones built on honesty and genuine care for each other. Aunt Linda became closer to me, as did several cousins who had stood by me through everything. William, now 83, moved to a retirement community just 20 minutes from my apartment. We have dinner together every week. He's become not just my grandfather but one of my closest friends. Tom became the older brother I never had. His kids call me Aunt Autumn. I'm part of their family in every way that matters. And Jenna remains my constant, the sister I chose, the friend who proved that family isn't always about blood. I started therapy to process everything, the betrayal, the trauma of almost dying, the complex feelings about my parents and Madison. My therapist helped me understand that their choices weren't a reflection of my worth, that I deserved better than how they treated me. 6 months after the surgery, I was sitting with William at his apartment. He'd been watching me closely, the way he does when he wants to say something important. "I'm proud of you," he said finally. "For what?" "For standing up for yourself. For refusing to accept mistreatment. For telling the truth even when it was hard. I destroyed the family." "No, sweetheart. The family was already destroyed. Your parents destroyed it when they chose a car over your life. You just refused to stay silent about it." He handed me an envelope. Inside was a check, the money my father had started paying back. "This is yours," William said. "Use it to build your life." "Grandpa, That money was for you. I have more than enough. You've been through hell. Take this and do something good with it. Start that freelance business you've been talking about. Move to a nicer apartment. Whatever you need. I cried again, overwhelmed by his generosity and love. Real family takes care of each other, he said. Not because they have to. Because they want to. That moment crystallized everything I'd learned. Family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by who shows up when you're in pain. Who believes you. Who fights for you. Who values your life over their convenience. I used to think I owed loyalty to my parents and Madison because we shared DNA. I learned that I owed them nothing. They had to earn their place in my life just like everyone else, and they had failed that test spectacularly. 1 year after the surgery, I hosted a dinner party at my new apartment, the one I'd been able to afford thanks to William's gift and my new job. Tom and his family came. William came. Jenna came. Aunt Linda and Sarah came. A few other cousins who had stood by me came. We sat around my dining room table, laughing and sharing stories, creating new memories, building a new kind of family. I looked around the table at these people who had chosen me, who had supported me, who had proven their love through action rather than words. I want to say something, I announced. Everyone quieted down. A year ago, I was lying in a hospital bed, thinking I might die. I felt completely alone and abandoned. I couldn't understand why my own family would choose a car over my life. William reached over and squeezed my hand, but I survived. And I learned something important. I learned that family isn't about who you're related to by blood. It's about who shows up when you need them most. It's about who believes you, who supports you, who values your well-being. I looked at each person around the table. You are my family. Not because you have to be, but because you chose to be. And I'm more grateful for that than I can ever express. There were tears around the table, hugs, affirmations of love and support. That night, after everyone left, I sat in my apartment thinking about everything. The pain I'd endured, the betrayal I'd survived, the family I'd lost, and the family I'd gained. I thought about that morning when I'd seen Madison's BMW in my parents' driveway, how broken I'd felt. How hopeless. And I thought about where I was now. Healthy. Thriving. Surrounded by people who genuinely cared about me. Building a life on my own terms. The truth is, I wouldn't wish what happened to me on anyone. The physical pain was terrible. But the emotional pain of realizing your parents love your sister more than they value your life is a wound that never fully heals. But il se vit, and I'm stronger for it. I learned that you can't control how people treat you. You can only control how you respond. I could have stayed silent. Could have accepted the mistreatment. Could have played peacemaker and pretended everything was fine. Instead, I chose myself. I fought back. I told the truth. And I built a new life with people who proved they deserved to be in it. My parents made their choice. Madison made hers. And I made mine. That one phone call from Grandpa William didn't just change my medical situation. It changed my entire understanding of what family means. He showed me that real love is action, not words. That people who truly care about you prove it when it matters most. And he gave me permission to walk away from people who didn't value me. I'm grateful for the pain in a strange way. It showed me who truly cared. It taught me my own worth. It gave me the strength to demand better. If there's one thing I want people to take from my story, it's this. You are worth fighting for. Even if your own family doesn't see it, that doesn't make it less true. You deserve people who show up, who choose you, who value your life over their convenience or comfort. Blood doesn't make someone family. Love does. Action does. Consistency does. And if the people you're related to don't give you those things, you have permission to build your own family with people who do. That's what I did, and my life is better for it. 1 year after nearly dying while my sister got a BMW, I'm happy, healthy, free. And that's the best revenge of all. Before I end, I want to ask you something. Have you ever experienced favoritism in your family? Have you ever felt like you had to choose between your well-being and keeping family peace? How did you handle it? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. It helps more people find these stories and realize they're not alone in what they've experienced. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. I share stories about real people facing real challenges, finding strength they didn't know they had, and building lives on their own terms. Your support means everything. Finally, if you know someone who needs to hear this story, someone who's struggling with family issues or feeling undervalued, please share this with them. Sometimes we need to hear that we're not crazy for demanding better treatment, that we're not wrong for standing up for ourselves. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I know it was long, and I appreciate you sticking with me through all of it. Your support has been overwhelming, and it's helped me continue healing. Remember, you deserve people who show up when you need them. You deserve to be valued. You deserve real love, not manipulation or conditional acceptance. Don't settle for less than that, ever. Take care of yourselves. Stand up for yourselves. And never apologize for choosing your own well-being. Until next time.